We're on.
How's it going, everybody? Andrew with Branson Cerakote and Applicator Hangout, and welcome to today's episode of Tacked Out. So we're just going to go ahead and kind of get into it. I don't have a whole lot planned today, so I'm just going to kind of talk about scopes. I don't think we've covered those yet. I just did one for myself, and so we'll just kind of go over how I did this. Can you see this in the camera, Whit?
There's a picture pulled up on the screen of it right now.
All right, awesome. So of the scope?
The whole gun, everything.
Oh, cool. So on the scope, all I've done here was when you go to mask these things off, when you're coating them, I kind of did something a little different this time. I just used, I can't think of the name of it now, like a wood clamp, and I've just cut out some little pieces of wood so I can just smash that thing around it, and I can just grab this whole thing. Now I'm just holding on to the wood clamp itself, and I can sandblast around it. It's got the little rubberized pieces on it here on the back. I just use high heat tape that off, and then I taped off for my solar at the top, anything that I didn't want to get coating on. After I sandblasted it, I took it off the wood clamp, and then I just put high heat tape around here, and I just traced it off, and that gives me my nice clean black line across it. And I mean, I think it's fine to just have it there because I don't want to put a whole lot of color in there and then you get some kind of weird glare or something. So I think just keeping that black on the inside is probably the best thing for the scopes instead of coating the insides of them. I think it's going to be better. If somebody wanted you to coat the inside of it and it all matched, then, then you're just going to take either stencil material or some kind of high heat tape, put it in there, and then you're just going to trace that out on the inside, and then you can spray it. That wouldn't be an issue, but I kind of like the way that it looks with the black there, personally. I think that's the way to go for myself. Something else that, I'm kind of tried that's kind of new is I just took some paracord and just kind of wrapped some paracord on the front of this just to kind of make it look a little different, not just like everybody else's. I don't know, it's just something I wanted to kind of try and do. I seen a couple of them online. I kind of like the way it looks, so I just tried something myself. I like it personally myself. I mean, not everybody's going to like it, but I mean, that's something else that you can kind of add into your arsenal if you wanted to do, just kind of wrap a couple. It took me 25 minutes, it wasn't that bad, but you can charge a couple extra, I don't know, $50, $60 or so for something like that if you wanted. But I did a bunch of color fill on this. I've kind of been doing this a little bit slow, really. I started out with this gun probably a year ago. I kind of just did I had a whole nother not another chassis, but I had different furniture on it. And so as I've been redoing my furniture, I've kind of just been upgrading a little bit and adding some new colors to it. But I'm going to get rid of it and then start over and do something different. So I don't know. We'll see what I come up with next time. But the mag here, I did all that with just the color fill pen. And I mean, this was pretty easy, really, just to kind of get all that in there. And you just tack it out. If it bleeds over a little bit, not that big of a deal. Get you some Scotch-Brite. Just kind of rub over it real lightly, and that'll just leave all your color in there. It's pretty nice. But it's been a fun project. It's been a long time going, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. But another thing on scopes, make sure if it does have a battery in it, you have to pull that battery out of the scope before you put it through there because it could blow up in your oven if you don't. So just make sure you get that out. Let's see. I wrote a couple other little things down just because I was kind of running behind. It's been kind of hectic for me trying to get everything done this week. These are just some questions that I've seen online. We don't do a lot of C-Series in here, but I've seen a lot of people asking questions about C-Series and stencils. If you're going to stencil something with C-Series, it needs to sit for at least 45 minutes to an hour, and that's going to give you like your tack free. That's going to be like if you were to tack it out in the oven for, like we tack out for like 12 minutes usually, roughly, it's just a tack is a feel, it's not a time, but I know to go check my oven at around 12 minutes on most stuff. So for C-Series, you've got about 45 minutes to an hour is where you want to kind of start trying to feel on it so you're not leaving fingerprints. Let's see. I've seen some other stuff. If a customer wants high gloss on a gun, we don't recommend you put high gloss on firearms. We recommend that you use the matte clear instead of the high gloss. The high gloss is going to make it look like a Nerf gun. It's going to kind of be like a little toyish. Some people want the high gloss, and that's fine. I mean, whatever the customer's paying you for, that's what you're going to put on it. I mean, that's what we do. Whatever's going to pay and whatever they want, that's what I'm going to put on there. If they don't like it, they can pay me to take it off and put it back on, as long as they were the one that requested it. If they say they want clear coat on a gun, we just automatically put the matte clear, unless they specifically say they want high gloss. The only time that you will use the high gloss on like normal like applications, if you're going to use some kind of like the FX or Gun Candy or the Warlock Customs. You guys should go check them out. Warlock Customs, they have a lot more to offer as far as like the Cerakote FX, like they have more colors. All of their powders are ground down to a Pacific, I forget what it is, but everything's all the same. So I mean, it lays on smooth. It's really good product. So I just recommend maybe everybody go check them out. If you're kind of getting into the whole Gun Candy and FX, just maybe go check out Warlock Customs. They have a lot of neat colors and a lot of cool stuff. I've also seen people said, can you wet sand Cerakote smooth? You can. Just use like the triple lot steel wool. That stuff will kind of get in there, and it's not too aggressive. It'll just kind of just lightly hit it. You just have to be careful because it's easy to go past that and kind of get down to that other color. So just take it slow and just try to get that thing as tight as you can. You're going to rub on it, but you're not hitting more other surfaces than the one that you're just trying to hit. Let's talk about degreasing a scope. That's good. To degrease this, all you're really doing is I sand mine down first, and then I just kind of wipe it down with acetone, and then I call that good, because you're not going to put that in your soak tank or anything like that. You're just going to sand it down, wipe it down a little acetone, good to go. We bake all of our scopes out at 150. We tack them out still at 180, and it's going to be totally fine. People say all the time, I'm not putting a scope in the oven. If you tack out at 180 and it's only going to go in the oven for like 12 to 14 minutes to get tacked out, after that, you're just going to go bake it in the oven at 150 for 2 hours, and then it'll be fine. It's not going to be as hard as everything else, but you're not going to ding that scope around, and it's still going to, I mean, it's on there. It's not going to scratch off or nothing. So, I mean, it's good. Here. Another thing with like how I was saying, you can get the if you're having to wet sand that off, then you're just going too heavy, and all you're trying to do is, if you're putting stencils on, all you're doing is going heavy enough to change the color. You're not trying to put on multiple 1 mil base coats, because that's going to give you that's going to give you your ridges over your stencils. So instead of spraying heavy and heavy every time, just spray light enough to change that color. It's all in your gun settings. Just kind of dial that down a little bit, a little lighter than what you were with your base coat, and all you're doing is changing that color up. As soon as you get that color change, you're not trying to cover up the actual yellow of the stencil. If you cover up the yellow of the stencils, most of the time you're going to have a ridge. Some colors change that, or will cover up the yellow better than others, but for the most part, you can still kind of see some of that yellow come through. And that's totally fine, because that's out of bounds. You're not going to see that anyways. You're just trying to cover up the color that was previously on it. What am I going to say about that? There's like if you're doing like a 3-color camo. So I would spray my first color, tack it out, put my stencils on. When I go to spray the second color, instead of spraying that whole gun, just spray around your stencils, kind of trace them out, and then kind of fill in the bigger areas so that you can put a stencil on that next. So I don't want to spray over all my stencils 2 or 3 times, because then you're going to have ridges on your first ones, but not your second ones. Spray over some of them, but wherever you sprayed over that, put a stencil over for your next color. Just kind of overlap them on top of one another, And then that's the way you're not spraying over that same spot multiple times. You're not creating ridges, and you don't have to worry about it. That's just kind of some little tricks to kind of avoid your ridges. But if you spray it right, you should never have to go back and sand anything down. Yeah, we're all human. We're gonna make mistakes. It happens. I'm not perfect. I still mess up, but we just go back and we fix them. So. Got any questions? What do we got for questions, Whit?
I got a question from Andy. It says, do you need to take all the way to bare material to get the Cerakote to be stronger and stick better? How thin can you sand blasting and get the best results? Yeah, do you have to sand
Yes.
all the way down to bare material in order for Cerakote to be stronger and stick better?
Yes, I recommend you go all the way down to bare material. I'm like on some anodizing, they say on anodizing all you have to do is gray it up. But if you go to sandblast, like some anodizing, and it goes down to bare metal, you need to take everything down to bare metal at that point. I forget the levels of anodizing and all that. We don't do that in our shop, but if it's a really good quality anodized material, then you can just gray that up. You don't have to take it all the way down.
Just scuff it.
Yeah, all you got to do is scuff it. But if it's some cheap anodizing, and as you start going at it and it's kind of chipping off or whatnot, then you just need to take all that off and just go down to bare metal. If you're, say somebody brings you a project and they're like, oh, it's a little dinged right here, I want you to fix it. Well, you can't just fix that one spot. You have to redo it. You're going to have to sand everything back down because Cerakote will not stick to dry Cerakote. I haven't actually tried. I've heard people say, you can just lightly sand that down and spray back over it. I don't recommend trying that because you've already got 1 mil on here, and then, or 1 to 2 mil. If you go to add more on it, the thicker you get Cerakote, the less durable it is, because it gets to a point to where it gets so thick that it's gonna, when you hit something, like if you were to drop it, it's gonna want to crack up here. It's best to just take it all down and redo it. Why risk it? Because then if it messes up, you're gonna have to redo it a third time, or a second time, whatever. So I just recommend just sanding it all down to bare metal, unless it's some kind of anodized that's really good and it's not chipping off on you or nothing. Then you can just kind of haze over it and then call it good. Polymer, all you're trying to do is just gray that polymer up for the most part. If it's already been coated previously, it's going to kind of have the same color that whatever it previously was coated. It'll kind of have like that faint color, and just kind of haze that up until it just kind of doles out, basically. But it's really not bad. It's I think it's better safe than sorry to just take everything down all the way. Most of the time, I usually, even on a lot of my anodizing that I do, even if it's really good anodizing, most of the time I'll still end up taking it all the way down, because it doesn't take. We have our sandblaster is extremely efficient, and it doesn't take us that long to sandblast stuff. So 9 times out of 10, I'd say I usually still just go all the way down to bare metal. That way I don't have to worry about anything chipping off or messing up or whatever. I know that it's going to stick. It's going to be on there good. Coating.
You have another question.
Go ahead.
It's baking at higher temperatures make the coating better, harder, etc. Like, is it better in general or no?
No, it doesn't actually change a lot. Now, like, okay, so I baked the scope out at 150. This is not going to be as strong as like the polymer and stuff in here. This is going to be a little bit weaker, but not much. All of our polymer we bake out at 180, and it does fine. We don't have any issues with it. All of our metal, now on certain colors like your white, you're going to want to bake all of your lighter colors out at 250. So you go for 2 hours at 250 instead of 1 hour at 300. The only difference you get is time. You don't get any harder. You don't get anything like that, because if you go much over 300 degrees in any other color except for black, it's going to start darkening that color up. You're not going to get the same color because you're burning you're burning the pigment at that point. So we do everything at 250 for 2 hours at our shop just because we know that we're not going to mess up any colors. We're not going to burn them. We're not going to change the pigments of them. So 250 at 2 hours, and we call it good. We're not worried about it. You know, all we're doing is saving an hour, but I have 2 ovens. I have 3 if you want to count my little oven that I do my scopes in. So we just leave one at 250, one at 180, and then I have my toaster oven that I use for if I have like some micro slick on a little bolt. I can crank that thing up to 300 if I want, do my micro slick, or keep it at 150 and do all of my my scopes. Yeah, those are some good questions. But yeah, it the only thing you get out of it is time. It's not going to get any harder. It's not going to get any better for you. All it is time that you're going to save. Oh, and then we also, hopefully, I'll have my next project done maybe next week, and I think maybe I showed you guys. I can't remember. Did I bring the 9mm in here yet? The one that we did all the color fill on? We did
Digital?
that. Yeah, we brought that in here,
Yeah.
didn't we? Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so it's been fun. So I don't really have a whole lot more to go over. I left my other notebook at home, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to kind of ask. If not, this is going to be kind of a shorter podcast for me today. I'm sorry I was a little unprepared, but next week I'll have some more stuff kind of written down so we can kind of go over some stuff. I just left my notebook at home, but so if anybody has any questions, just feel free to go ahead and ask, and I'll get to those really fast.
Look like you have any.
Do what?
It doesn't look like you have any.
Well, there's a delay on here too, so I was just gonna give it a minute.
That's true.
Yeah, so this weekend we're gonna go out to the range, do a little bit of some shooting. We're gonna take the 5150 out to the range, and so we'll have some video footage up of that probably next week sometime or something. That'll be fun. I'm excited to go out and shoot that. It'll be a lot of fun. And if anybody's in town, feel free to stop by the shop. You know, we'll kind of show you guys around. Have any questions, come and hang out with us for a little while, you know. If you're having issues with something, maybe we can try to get you in the spray booth with some whatever I'm spraying. Throw some kind of beater part in there and kind of get you dialed in if you're having issues with something. We don't mind helping people out, so feel free to stop by and check us out sometime, you know. We'll show you guys around. But thanks everybody for watching. What?
Someone says with H series, hang on. So I think they're typing a question right now. Long question.
I think he's typing it out maybe.
Please.
You got big plans this weekend, Whit?
Shooting the gun and relaxing.
You know what? I'm ready to go get in the swimming pool. I don't know about everybody else, but it's been really hot here and pretty humid. I'm ready to go cool off and do nothing for a little bit.
All right, this question came in. With the H series, if you scratch the slide, putting a sight on. Oh, he's still like a harder question. I thought it was all of it.
Putting the sight on after you
Wait. Oh, with a. Wait a second. He's still put more in. Okay. The H series, if you scratch the slide, putting a sight on, do you have to repaint or can you tape off, sandblast, and redo that area?
It depends on where you scratched it, I guess. If it's a single color, I would just probably do the whole thing, just because it wouldn't take that long to redo that. Um, we do not reassemble or disassemble anything in our shop. We do not have a licensed gunsmith on duty, and it takes the liability of us out of that. Because if I spend a bunch of time on a gun, then I go to put the sights in or put a pin in or something, and I ding a gun, then I'm redoing that on my dollar or the company's dollar. So to kind of get that away from us, we just don't do it anymore. We've lost 0 customers. Just tell them, we're not licensed gunsmith. We don't do it. We take everything in disassembled, and then we send it back to either to the customer, or we have a gunsmith that we work with locally that we can send the gun to. He can reassemble it, and then we can give it back to the customer. But we do not wrench on anything unless it's kind of our own guns, and then we'll do it just to kind of take the liability out of our hands of doing something like that. So that's kind of our way of getting out of it. But if you're doing it and you do kind of mess up, like you're saying, if it's a single color, I would say just go ahead and redo the whole thing. You're probably just a little thicker right there. Those spots are really tight. Yeah, I mean, I would probably, I guess I'd have to see a picture of it. If it's on the inside, maybe not. You could probably tape everything else off. If it's on the outside of the slide, then I would just redo the whole thing. Because the problem is if it chipped and you're sanding that off, if you're not the same thickness, you're gonna feel that little bit of a ridge, like where that tape is on the outside, if you're just trying to do one little spot. But if it's on the inside, you could probably get away with it. You could tape everything else off, and you're not gonna feel that transition because that sight's gonna be in there. But if it's on the outside, then I think that it would be kind of tough to get that exact same there. It's not gonna feather in right, and I would say just redo the whole thing. That makes sense, or that what I'm saying?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, if you guys have any more questions, but that was a good one. That's the way I would do it. I would think, depending. If it's on the inside, you could probably tape it off and just hit the one side or hit the inside of it. If not, just sand the whole thing down. If it's multiple colors, then definitely probably have to maybe sand that down.
Yeah, he said he got it. And he also said thank you.
Hey, you're welcome, sir. Thanks for watching the video. We appreciate it.
Yep, so, thank you, Charlie.
All right, guys. That's about all I got for today. Like I said, I was kind of a little unprepared because I didn't really bring my other. I grabbed the wrong notebook, is what it was. So next week I've got some stuff planned. I'm gonna try to get a couple guys that we've had in training, kind of call, and we're gonna kind of just try to go over, like, what are some issues that you had trying to get into this, even after you came to training and you got back to your house and you were trying to set up your shop. What are some unforeseen things that you didn't really think about getting into this industry that you've had to go through, what you've had to deal with. So that's what we're going to try to cover next week, hopefully. So if you guys are just getting into this business and trying to get a shop going, that might be a good one for you guys to kind of check up and listen on. Yeah, come on over, ask some questions, because I'm going to hopefully, maybe get at least one, maybe hopefully 2 or 3 guys to maybe call. I might start it a little early because this could potentially go on for a little bit. So we might start at 4 next week. I'll let you guys know after I get a hold of everybody and just kind of talk to everyone. So, yeah, so hopefully I'll see everybody here next week at, let's say, we'll just go ahead and shoot for 4 o'clock just because I think next week might be a little bit longer. So, yeah, that's it for this week's podcast. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Thank you for watching.
What?